The at-home version of the STAIRS lab introduces a new concept to the 8th grade. This primarily focuses on work and power, two concepts that you have not yet read about, but that's okay. The two questions that we're trying to answer in this lab are right here. One, do you do more work climbing stairs quickly or climbing stairs slowly? And two, does it take more power to climb stairs quickly or climb stairs slowly? Now we know that we start out any lab report by answering those questions in two hypotheses. What I recommend is that before you give your answers, before you write down your hypotheses, you read this background information. This background information goes through the equations for both work and for power, and it explains a little bit of what each of those are and what they mean. What will be important is to give a quick read through these before you answer your hypotheses. Once you've done that, you can start in on experiment 1. Follow this step by step. You can cross out each step as you go through the step and follow it carefully. It's easy to do if you're going step by step. Essentially what you're going to do is you're going to walk up the stairs, then you're going to walk up the stairs quickly, meaning run up the stairs, and then you're going to climb the stairs quickly, but 2 stairs at a time, meaning you're going to skip a step. So you're going to walk, you're going to run, and then you're going to run, but skipping a stair. You're going to record the information right here, right? You're going to record the distance that you went up the stairs, how much force it required, and the time, and then you'll be able to calculate, you'll be able to calculate the work and the power. All of those instructions are right in here, right? These first steps, 1, 2, and 3, tell you how to calculate the distance and the force. We know how to record the time. If you go back up here to background information, it tells you how to calculate the work right there, and it tells you how to calculate the power right here. So using these first 2 pages, you can figure out exactly how to get all this information. Distance and force are included in steps 1, 2, and 3. We know how to record the time, and for calculating work and power, go back up to background information where it shows you, here's the equation, and here's the other equation. Okay? Experiment 2 is to take what you've already done and try to figure out how we could get even more power. Right? That's going to take a little bit of work, or a little bit of thinking, rather. What could you do? What could you change in the methods that would result in a little bit more power being generated? So far you've climbed the stairs slowly, 1 stair at a time. You've climbed the stairs quickly, 1 stair at a time. And then you climb the stairs quickly, skipping a step, going 2 at a time. So how could we change things even more to result in generating more power, right? Knowing what you've learned, because you'll already have collected this data, what could we change? Could we increase the distance? Could we decrease the distance? Could we change the force in some way? Could we make you heavier, or could we make you lighter? Could we reduce the time in some way to result in more power, right? You want to focus on one of those changes, right? Since these are the 3 variables that go into power. Power is force times distance divided by time. You're going to want to change one of these variables, right? If we're changing one independent variable to measure the change in a dependent variable, we only change one thing. So you can't change the distance and the force, or the force and the time. You can change one of these 3 to result in more power. And it's up to you what you do, right? Do you think that increasing or decreasing the distance will lead to more power? What about increasing or decreasing the force? Or increasing or decreasing the time, right? So that's going to be, you're measuring the power in part 2, and you're going to change one of these 3 things in some way. Does that mean that you skip 3 steps? Does that mean you jump up 4? Does that mean that you carry a heavy object or try to make yourself lighter? I don't know how you do that. Does that mean that you run a farther distance or a shorter distance, right? Any of those changes could potentially result in more power. And so what you're going to do is come up with a testable hypothesis, right? A testable hypothesis would be like, if I were heavier, then the power would increase. Or if I were lighter, meaning if the force was greater or if the force was less, then the power would be greater or less. Or if there was a greater distance or a shorter distance, or if there was 4 steps at a time, 1 step at a time, whatever the variable is you're changing, it should be written in an if-then statement, just like all of our hypotheses. That means that these should also be an if-then statements. So for today, all you're doing is getting the data. You don't need to worry about the graphs. You don't need to worry about the discussion section. You don't need to worry about the conclusion. You're just collecting the data. This is probably going to take you a little bit longer than 30 minutes, but that's okay because the rest of the activities that we have planned for this week are probably closer to 10 to 20 minute activities, meaning that we've shortened them down because we know this one is going to take a little bit longer. Usually, kids have fun doing this because you just get to run up and down the stairs, right? Also, once you figure out these first 3 steps of calculating the distance and force and all of that, this moves pretty quickly. So if you're actually, reading the instructions and going step by step, this shouldn't take you much longer than 30 minutes, if even longer than 30 minutes. Please remember to reach out to your teachers if you have questions. We're here, but in most cases we're going to send you back to the instructions because we've included all of this background information for a reason, because it'll help you with your hypotheses. We've included the equations here because it's going to help you calculate work and power. These steps are very detailed or provide a lot of details, right? If you go step by step, which will help you get this information. If you want to check with us before you move on to experiment 2 and ask us whether you're on the right track, right? Seeing if you're only changing one independent variable, if you're doing this the right way, go for it. We can help you figure out if that's true or if you're doing it right. But at the same time, if you know that you're changing the distance, the force, or the time, one of those 3 in some ways, right? You're making the distance longer, shorter, heavier, or less heavy, and somehow you're changing the time, meaning you're running even faster, or you're going up 4 stairs, or you're going up, however you're doing it. If you're changing one of these things, you're on the right track.